Back to one. This is sound design.
Hey guys, I'm Rob Reider. I'm here to talk to you about the sound for ISLA MONSTRO.
I am terrible with sound. Spoiler alert. It is the one element of production that I'm not great at. Well, makeup too. Not good at makeup either. Which is why I have a fantastic confidant, Robert Reider of Acahone Audio, who has done most of our projects for the past 20 years.
Hey, my name's Rob Reider. I'm a sound designer and composer for film. I started my career in sound when I was trying to kick off a career in composing.
I met Rob in Orlando, Florida. We were both attending the University of Central Florida at the same time.
I worked with a bunch of students, composed a bunch of films, and then eventually was able to land a job at an audio school where I taught post-production sound for film. Some of my big sound credits would include things like, well, probably my favorite is Mortal Kombat, Pokemon Evolutions, Battle Kitty for Netflix, Echo in the Canyon. I recorded Tom Petty's last interview on camera, actually. I have probably around 300 so credits on IMDb.
Seems pretty successful to me.
So the process for sound design and post-sound essentially usually starts with a picture lock. There will be like a dialogue pass either by myself or a dialogue editor. For sound effects, like generally you kind of take a stab at it and then work with notes on the director afterward. And then after that, we kind of either have someone in parallel working on things like ambiences, which is the backgrounds, the sounds, and the environments, you know. And sometimes that's a discussion. Like in ISLA MONSTRO, we discussed that this is an island where there aren't a lot of animal life. Maybe the experiments killed off a lot of the animals or whatnot, or maybe they just were all mutated into mutants, so who knows. But essentially, like, we had decided as a sound design kind of aspect to the tapestry of the film that we weren't gonna have lots of crickets, we weren't gonna have birds cawing in the background. And so, you know, those are kind of the direction that we take in creating that tapestry. Also during this time, I'll actually have the Foley artists, you know, walk the footsteps of the films. Foley is performed sound effects to picture, and so that's a very big part of what we do. Sam, you know, has big bare feet and he's walking on grass, so we need to hear that. And so, you know, we'll literally stick up a microphone and walk on grass.
Hey, I've seen you. Where are yous?
Another thing is movement Foley sounds. You know, so someone picks up a beer bottle and cheers with someone else. Well, we'll actually take a beer bottle, put a little bit of liquid in it, and we'll take another one and we'll slosh it around and we'll cheers and we'll record that. And then the very next step would be the pre-dubbing, where essentially you take the dialogue and you're kind of leveling out the dialogue to how you feel it would sit to the picture. And you take all the ambiences and level them out, you know, and then you take those elements from the pre-dubs and then you mix them all together. And so now you're placing the dialogue and you're mixing the backgrounds to the dialogue and you're putting the, you know, Foley effects and the explosions, and you're making sure that all of those levels are correct.
Oh my God, we made it.
So the differences between working on an animated feature and a live action feature is really in the production sound. Your production sound already has a bit of your ambience, of your environment. It's got, you know, the feet shuffling. It's got, you know, the glasses clinking and stuff like that. Animation doesn't have any of that. Animation was recorded in a void. The actor is in a silent room hearing only their own heartbeat. And so essentially, like, you know, we take that into the session and, you know, we have to build up everything from scratch. So there's nothing to lean on. Every single breath, every single creak, every single movement has to be underlined with something, or else the movie sounds like it's in a vacuum.
This looks safe in here.
Yeah, so the software we use in sound design and for post-audio for any film is essentially starts with Pro Tools. Pro Tools allows us to do all of the detailed editing, mixing. One discussion that we had that kind of led to some really kind of fun stuff was the movements of Dr. Oculus.
This is Dr. Oculus. Pretty much the only scientist that's still on the island.
So I come from a pretty extensive horror background. I've recorded a lot of gore sound effects, and I have this recording of these this fruit that I did. Like, I had all this rotted fruit and I was just gushing with it and all sorts of stuff. Made all this squelchy great stuff that I've used in probably like 100 different films. There's these tiny little squelchy sounds when you just like move your hand inside of an eviscerated watermelon, and those became the sounds of Oculus's eye movement. And at first I had talked to the sound effects editor and I was like, just focus on when we do close-ups of Oculus and we're like right next to him and he's right, on the giant screen. It's gonna be so funny if we hear these little like just gross sounds every time his eye moves. But what ended up happening is that the sound effects editor, Aaron Morgan, liked it so much that he did it through the entire film. I think it's such a nice, like, cool little detail that, just adds to the sonic tapestry and to the tapestry of the film. Post-pandemic, we have a lot of people with their own studios, different sounding spots that they're recording. And so this project was no different. Some recorded with us in Dave and Dave Studios, which is a studio I work with quite a bit. But we also worked with our friends at Skybound who have a booth, and, we recorded over there a bit. They all kind of have a little bit of a different sound. We have a lot of tools these days to kind of work with that. And essentially that is what comes down to in the mixing process. One thing that you can't mix is performance. And one thing that's really extraordinary with what Steven did with these actors is that none of these actors were recorded in the same room at the same time. Every single one of these actors were recorded separately, which is almost always done with voiceover. But you have to have someone with a vision to be able to direct those actors to where they sound like they're together, where they sound like they're communicating and, they're essentially in the moment. And that is not something that just happens. You have to manufacture that. You have to manufacture Inspirato. It has to feel like it just happens. And it's natural, and I think that's just really a testament to what Steven did with the actors on this. So once all of that is taken care of and we've arrived at all of our elements, our final step is the final mix. Now, the one thing we need for the final mix that we have not discussed is the music. So I think we should now turn and talk to the genius that wrote the music for this film, ISLA MONSTRO, and I could only wonder who that is.